They always say that trades make championships. In the case of this trade, one of the most weirdest configurations, because when it happened, we didn't know this would lead to the big red machine as we knew it from the 1970s. But when Joe Morgan was packaged from his original team, the Astros, to the Reds, for it was a blockbuster deal, it literally changed baseball history. Now, to this day, the aforementioned trade is considered an epoch-making deal for Cincinnati, although at the time many experts felt that the Astros slighted the Reds and got the better of the deal. In this trade, power-hitting Lee May, all-star second baseman Tommy Helms, and outfielder pinch hitter Jimmy Stewart went to the Astros. In addition to Morgan, including the deal where Cesar Geronimo became the regular right fielder and then center fielder, a solid number 8 hitter for the Reds, starting pitcher Jack Billingham, veteran infielder Dennis Menke, and minor league outfielder Ed Arbrister. Of course, he was the person involved in the great plate collision of '75. Morgan joined leadoff hitter Pete Rose as prolific catalyst at the tops of the Reds lineup. Morgan added home run power, not always displayed with the Astros and the Cavaliers Astrodome, with outstanding speed and excellent defense. Now, he was a 10-year All-Star, including 72, 79 inclusive. Two-time World Series champion, 75 and 76. NL MVP, 75 and 76. 5 straight Gold Gloves, 73 to 77. And, of course, Houston Astros Hall of Fame, Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. Cincinnati Reds retired, and again, Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, as part of the Big Red Machine, he made 8 consecutive All-Star appearances, 72-79, to go along with 66 and 70 appearances with Houston. Again, this is what Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Tony Perez, and Dave Concepcion. The key led to Reds to consecutive championships in the World Series. But don't forget Ken Griffey, Dan Dreesen, and, of course, the other one he picked up in a trade, the big George Foster. He drove in Ken Griffey for the winning run in Game 7 of the 75 World Series. Morgan, again, the MVP in 75-76, where defense was regarded more than the current style. He was the first second baseman in the history of the National League to win the MVP back-to-back, and I believe he's the best second baseman of all time. In Morgan's NL MVP years, he combined for a .324 batting average, 44 home runs, 205 runs batted in, 246 bases on balls, and 127 stolen bases. This is a career for some people. He got it for 2 years. Now, an extremely capable hitter, especially in clutch situations with the arm pump, while his lifetime average was only .271, he hit between .288 and .327 during his peak years with the Reds. Additionally, he drew many walks, resulting in an excellent 39.2% on-base percentage. He also hit 268 home runs to go with his 449 doubles and 96 triples. Excellent power for the middle infielder of his era, and was considered by some the finest base stealer of his generation, with 689 steals at greater than 80% success rate. Besides his prowess at the plate and on the bases, he was an exceptional infielder, winning the Gold Glove again in consecutive years from 73 to 77. His short height proved an asset to him, as he had one of baseball's smallest strike zones. According to Tommy John, the umpires gave him everything. If he didn't swing at the pitch, it was a ball. Well, Tommy John always did terrible against the Reds anyway. Now, when he was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame, he got 81% of the vote on the first ballot. Now, when he returned to 1980, Houston 1980 as a free agent, he helped the young Astros win the NL West. The Astros then lost the NL championship to the Phillies. Then Morgan went to San Francisco for the next 2 years, and his home run in the last game of the 82 season eliminated the Dodgers from the division race, and he won the 82 Willie Mack Award for his spirit and perseverance. Now, Morgan was acquired along with Al Holland by the Phillies for the Giants for Mike Krukow and Mark Davis and minor league outfielder C.L. Pettinger on December 14, 82. Of course, they reunited him with Tony Perez and Rose. On his 40th birthday in 83, he had 4 hits, including 2 homers and a double at Veterans Stadium. Now, that World Series was a rough one for the Phillies, facing off against the Orioles. Now, in Game 1, he hit a home run in the 6th inning to tie the game, and he became the second oldest player to hit a home run in the series. Enos Slaughter was a few months older at the age of 40. Now, as that series went on, he went 5 for 19 in the Fall Classic, which included a second home run in Game 5, but the Phillies lost in 5 games against a team led by young Cal Ripken. Now, Morgan eventually finished his career with the Oakland Athletics, and if I'm not mistaken, he was part of the Kingman Jackson, era, when they were bringing in a lot of veteran players. Now, is Joe Morgan a good announcer? No. We all know as an announcer, he's just too redundant. God bless his soul. He tried his best. Now, when he's a rare talent as well. He worked for ABC, NBC, ESPN, and also was a broadcaster from other sundries. Now, the idea of Morgan being a role model was thrown out. In March '88, while transitioning to LA International Airport, Morgan was incorrectly identified and thrown to the floor, handcuffed and arrested by LAPD detectives who profiled him as a drug courier. He filed and won a civil rights case in the LAPD in '91, and it was awarded $540,000. Now, in '93, a federal court upheld his claim that his civil rights had been violated. Now, the LAPD's reputation was in the toilet around this time, but because Joe Morgan was not considered a black role model, his situation with the cops was kind of, not say forgotten, but the thing with Morgan, ladies and gentlemen, he just won. Al Davis said it, just win, baby, right? Al Davis, one of the players, whether you liked him or not, or liked his, the famous line he did, well, if a player makes it a second base, it's a double. I don't think he meant to do that, but the problem is he would that's why he was never a manager. He would explain. Now, pound for pound, the Cincinnati Reds of 75-76 to me are the greatest team of all time, and I tell you why. Let's just back it up for a second here. Foster, Concepcion, and Griffin the outfield. Dreesen as DH. Pete Rose at third. Concepcion at short. Morgan at second. Perez at first. Bench behind the plate, and Bench was playing injured and sick most of that time. Who the hell is going to beat the Cincinnati Reds? The 75 Red Sox were the second best team of the 1970s, and they lost to the Reds. The 1976 Yankees, they lost, but he still had Chambliss. Reggie hadn't arrived yet, but still that Yankees team was quite strong, coached by Billy Martin. Very few times where Billy Martin would lose to in that way, because he got to the playoffs again with Minnesota, got to the playoffs with Detroit, came close with the Rangers. By the time he was in New York, he was on his winning mode. The Minnesota and Detroit teams that won had no right being there. Like I said, he was an overachiever. He later did that in Oakland in the Henderson years. But Joe Morgan, I don't know if he was ever approached to manage or coach a team. He was been an advisor as well. Now, in April 2010, again, he returned to the Reds as an advisor for baseball operations, including community outreach for the Reds. Now, Sports USA Radio Network, of course, he had a show for a while, and unfortunately, leukemia took him in 2020, despite a bone marrow transplant. Now, Morgan, again, is a top 10 player of the 1970s in baseball. When you think of the 70s, you think of Rose and Morgan right away, Johnny Bench 3, Reggie Jackson 4, you talk about Brooks Robinson, all that. But my former baseball coach told me after a bad infield play by our second baseman, the old Belden Mooseheads, I don't have a Joe Morgan here, and if I had Joe Morgan's player here, I would win all the time. Second base is an interesting position because you look how Bichette plays it, and other players like him, you can make or break a game. But the only comparable player, he's not as good as Morgan yet, is Bo Bichette. He can hit for power, hit for average. He's improving on his fielding. He's still young too, but like his father, Dante, was never a defensive stalwart. So Bichette, for the young fans on this channel, that's who he reminds people of as a young Joe Morgan after he came from the Astros. But that arm pump, we were kids. We loved that. Game of the week on the French channel, CBC French, on the weekend. And the announcer would say, le grand vedette Joe Morgan qui fait la chose avec son bras. Say I'm pumped, son. He said, translation, he said he did the pump. It's like that. And in tribute to him, every time he used to take a picture on assignment before I would take it, I would do kind of my arm pump to keep me focused. I think he used that to keep focus. But by God, he knew the strike zone, like Tommy John said. I don't think the umpires favored him. He knew that strike zone every inch. And it's hard to believe. When Pete Rose was on the Reds, he was the second best player in the team. That's amazing. And Johnny Bench was number 3. Johnny Bench was, like I said, for the catcher position, he was number 1, but he wasn't the best player of the team. If you wanted a hit, you went to Joe Morgan. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, we're a vintage National League podcast. Let us know with a like, comment, and subscribe. We had some good response to our Tony Conigliaro AL podcast, but let us know if there's a player we like to cover, Doug Rader as well. We like to celebrate our heroes here. Like, comment, subscribe, or share.